Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and I am quite excited today because we are going to be looking once more at the band The Vision Bleak. Now, I have checked out The Vision Bleak on this channel once before, 4 years ago, when I looked at a track called Into the Unknown, which was the last time they released a new album. So they last released the album The Unknown 4 years ago. And there have been grumblings around Facebook saying that they're working on a new album at the moment, which is due to come out sometime soon, hopefully. And a day or two ago, they released a new video. I'm not going to say a new track, because it's actually 2 tracks in one. Their exact words were, "Here is a excerpt from our new album, Weird Tales, in the shape of 2 chapters." Now, the way they've worded this, it makes me curious, because it says the album is a 1-track opus of darkness and grandeur. Now, does that mean that the entire album is just one long track? I mean, I know years ago Mortis did something very similar. He had I think 2 or 3 albums, which I actually have, that consisted of just 2 tracks that were like 30 to 40 minutes long each. So is this what he's done here? And I think the Bar Guest of Whitby by My Dying Bride was also just one long piece of music. So is that what they've done here? And they've just chopped this bit out of the middle? And I say middle. When I looked it up, I read that it had 12 chapters, and what we're looking at today is chapters 4 and 5. They've been put into one lyric video, which is what we're going to be looking at today. And like I said, I love The Vision Bleak. I think they are fantastic. You know, when I first heard, I can't remember the name of the first track that I ever heard off the album, The Death Ship Has a New Captain. And I heard that years and years and years ago. And when I went and bought that album, I immediately loved the band. You know, they had such a great sound, you know, and I just really love the band. I think they're fantastic. So hearing that they're dropping a new album and they've released a new track, I am very excited to listen to it. So like I said, this video we're going to look at is actually 2 tracks in one. It's about 6.5 minutes in length. And it's chapter 4, Once I Was a Flower, and chapter 5, The Premature Burial. And it's weird to me saying The Premature Burial, because when I was a singer with Repulsive Vision, we actually did a song called Premature Burial as well, which I actually wrote the lyrics for, although they changed it since I left. But they still have the song, Premature Burial. But anyway, I'm just waffling on. Now, like I said, it is a lyric video. I couldn't find any lyrics anywhere else on the internet, so what I did, and I've done this before, I watched the video completely muted, so I couldn't hear the music, and I just typed out the lyrics as they appeared on screen. So hopefully they should be accurate. So yeah, I'm quite excited for this. You know, I love this band, so let's just jump into this and see what we've got. So this is Weird Tales, chapter 4, Once I Was a Flower, chapter 5, The Premature Burial. Let's have a look. Oh, there you go. Oh, okay. And the video itself just cuts off very abruptly there. But it's exactly what I came to expect from the Vision Bleak. You know, that I've always loved the sound of this band, because you hear a lot of sort of gothic music and it has all that sort of grandeur in it. You know, it's got all these sort of big sounds, you know, it's rather sort of, well, gothic. But the way that they sing in here, you know, that almost sort of exaggerated, like, cliche vampire voice that they use, it's not something I've heard in from any other band, you know, and it works really, really well, you know. And like I say, I absolutely love this band. I think they are fantastic. Been a huge fan of them since I first heard the first track they released. Excuse me. So, yeah, you know, it's brilliant. And I like how there was quite the difference between the songs, you know. There was Once I Was a Flower, you know, the first half of the song, it was sort of soft, it was delicate, you know, there wasn't really any sort of big guitar moments in it. But then it comes to Premature Burial, and it bursts straight in with those sort of heavy guitars, you know. And in relation to the subject of a premature burial, it's kind of understandable, because, you know, if you're buried alive, you would be panicking, you'd be freaking out, you know, there'd be all sorts of frenetic sort of action going on. So, you know, between the two, although the way they've portrayed a premature burial here is different to what an actual premature burial is, in a sense, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But yeah, I absolutely love the sound. You know, the guitars, you know, they've got that sounds that I associate with the Vision Bleak. You know, there's a certain sound to it. It's not a unique sound by any means, but, you know, it's a sound that you'd associate with the Vision, if you'd known the Vision Bleak for quite a long time. You know, it's a sound you'd associate with them, and, you know, if they changed that sound, it wouldn't sound right. You know, and again, the same with the vocal style. You know, there's that sort of, like I said, the sort of almost cliched, stereotypical vampire vocal style, which again you associate with the Vision Bleak, and if that changed, the band wouldn't be the band. They do also have the sort of harsher vocal, which it doesn't actually come out that much in their music over the years. I think they've released 5, maybe 6 albums. I can't remember exactly. It's actually been a while since I listened to Vision Bleak. You know, over those 5 or 6 albums, you know, the harsher vocals have appeared, but they've not been like a big presence on each album, you know. There's been the occasional track that's used them, but it's not been an overriding sound. It's mostly been those cleaner vocals. So, you know, it has all of the trademark sounds of Vision Bleak, and I think it sounds great, and I'm really looking forward to this album, because, like I said, big fan. And I'm curious to see, because it says, like, this is a one-track opus. Is it going to be just one long track? That's what I really want to know. You know, because this is 2 chapters, and that's 6.5 minutes. And from what I've read, it's a 12-track, you know, a 12-chapter story. So, you know, what's that? 12, 6, 12, 18, what's that? 36, you know, it could be a 36-minute piece of music, could be 40, you know. My math could be way off there. I'm not very good at mental arithmetic, but I think I'm right. Anyway, as with most Vision Bleak albums to this point, it seems to be a concept album, you know, telling an overarching story. So it will be really difficult to sort of discern any meaning from the lyrics, but we'll still talk about them anyway, because there's a couple of interesting... The way they use lyrics and the way they word things, I really like, you know, it's quite a clever way of writing. So... It opens up with, once I was a flower, fair and large in shape, rainbow-winged insects that from my chalice ate. The rivers sang me hymns of beauty without end, and jewel-breasted birds were enticed by my scent. So he's almost literally talking about being a flower, you know. It's weird, but, you know... But I like the way he put things like rainbow-winged insects that from my chalice ate, you know, obviously referring to like pollination of a plant, you know, dip in there, Prosca into the nectar and that sort of thing. And the river sang me hymns, you know, that sort of steady flow of the rivers, you know, it's very soothing, very relaxing. You know, beauty without end, obviously, living out in nature. And, you know, birds that were enticed by the scent, you know, again, the smell brings the birds closer, they collect the pollen and spread it elsewhere. So, you know, he's literally talking about being a flower. Then they cut the thread of all my emerald splendour and placed me in her hair to mingle with her grandeur. So someone came along, snipped the flower from the emerald splendour, so taking it from the verdant surrounding pastures that surrounded this flower, and put it in the hair of some... unknown woman here, you know, to mingle with her grandeur, you know, to sort of add and accentuate to her beauty, apparently. And then it goes, that night she passed away, I know not how she died, I had hoped to share with her eternal night. So, that night she died. Didn't know how, it just happened. You know, it says, I had hoped to share with her eternal night, so I'd have to spend a lot more time with her, you know, I might just be a flower. You know, I mean, the whole... I was a flower could be a sort of metaphorical thing, you know, he might be, you know, it might be a man who saw himself as an accessory to her, possibly, you know, and, you know, he'd spent time with her, you know, he was, you know, he might have attracted, like, insects and jewel-breasted birds, you know, these things might have been attracted to him, but nothing really caught his interest until this woman came along, and, you know, he sort of went off with her, and she died, you know, and, you know, he spent all that time waiting for her, and when he finally got to be with her, she died, and he's like, well, that sucks, I'd hoped to spend a lot more time with her, you know. That could be what this is sort of suggesting, you know, saying, once I was a flower, you know, I was young, I was beautiful, I attracted lots of, you know, other people, but I wasn't interested, I only wanted that one. And when I managed to get that one, I lost it immediately, you know. Anyway, but a strange wind entered, spreading my leaves dead, scattering them in ruin on her cold deathbed. Yet my ghost remained, like a faint perfume. I do now haunt her grave, her silent chamber's gloom, to stay with her forever, like a faint perfume. So again, a strange wind entered, spreading my leaves dead. Again, you know, this could be, like I said, this could be like some guy who, you know, used to be young, handsome, attractive, was only interested in this woman. When he got her, she died. You know, so a strange wind entered. So once her passing came, it left him devastated, you know, it broke him essentially, spreading his leaves dead, so he had no interest in anything ever again, you know, scattered in ruin across her cold deathbed. So, you know, the loss of her broke him, you know, and he just sort of forever wanted to stay by her side, you know, even in death. You know, it says, yet my ghost remained like a faint perfume. I do now haunt her grave. You know, so even in her passing, you know, he's perpetually by the side of her grave, sort of thing. You know, he's essentially haunting her grave because, you know, he refused to leave that area because he was so in love with her. He doesn't want to go. But again, of course, you know, going back to the literally being a flower, you know, my ghost remained like a faint perfume. So, you know, maybe the flower was locked in the coffin with this woman's remains, and, you know, it has sort of sealed the flower in there, and, you know, the faint perfume of said flower, you know, still lingers within the coffin. Who's to say? But, you know, I love the wording of it, and I think it's really, really beautifully worded. You know, and the way they, you know, the way they actually express certain things, you know, rainbow winged insects that from my chalice ate. You know, I like the vision, the vision. You know, I like the imagery that sort of conjures in your mind. You know, I like it when bands write songs that create these images in your mind. I find it fascinating, and it's really good songwriting. So then it goes on to chapter 5, Premature Burial. Now, in here, in the wording of this, like I said, it's quite different from what traditionally is referred to as a premature burial. Because years and years and years ago, they used to there was like this little bell on the top of a gravestone, and it had a cord that went into the grave, so that if someone was buried alive, you know, they could pull this cord, ring the bell, and they would be exhumed from the ground. Because apparently this happened quite a lot, because, you know, physicians those days were not necessarily particularly adept. So, you know, a premature burial is like, you know, maybe someone fell into a comatose state, you know, someone was in a coma. You know, the doctors at that point in time would, I'm assuming, think that they had died, and they would then bury them. And then, of course, that person would come out of the coma, find themselves in a coffin, and be like, what the fuck is going on? You know, and trying to scrabble and scrape their way out. And, you know, at some point in time, maybe that grave was exhumed, and they'd open it up and go, there's scratch marks on the inside of this. You know, someone had tried to get out. You know, or maybe the person tending their graveyard would hear the thumping of someone inside the coffin, and they'd be like, hold on, shit, that person's not dead. You know, so apparently it happened quite a lot, which led to them having to have these little bells that they put on the grave. You know, and that's what a premature burial was. Here, in the wording of the song, it seems to be quite different, and, you know, it says here, vague are the boundaries between life and death. Does your life end the moment you take your last breath? Certain is the humid soil, the ultimateness of the urn. Does there end your mortality? Who's the one to discern? So it says, vague are the boundaries between life and death. You know, there's a fine line between living and dying. And this seems to sort of suggest, you know, it says that, does your life end the moment you take your last breath? So here they're sort of suggesting the eternity of the soul, sort of thing, the spirit, you know, the endurance of the spirit after, you know, after the corporeal form ceases to function. You know, there's still the spirit and the soul of the person living on. This is what they're sort of talking about here. So when they're talking about premature burial here, they're like, this person is still alive, technically speaking. Whilst their physical form might not be active, they are still around, as it were. So, you know, that's what I mean by, you know, this is a premature burial in a different sense. So it says, yeah, you know, the certain is the humid soil and the ultimateness of the urn. So whilst those are, you know, literally the terminus of your physical form, of your body, you know, you might be stuck in the ground, you might be cremated and put in an urn, you know, those are, without question, the end of your corporeal form. Where does mortality end? You know, there's the endurance of the soul, the endurance of the spirit, you know, that lives on. So who is to discern when somebody actually ceases to live, because that person essentially still lives on in the ether as a spirit, as a soul, as a ghost, or whatever, or living on in someone's mind. Is that person truly dead at that point? It says, who's the one to discern? Who makes this decision? Who makes, who decides ultimately, no, this person is dead, gone, deceased, no more, bloom, kaput. Goes, the ultimate it does. The ultimate woe, the true wretchedness, oh the agony of a premature burial. Lips of marble, gazeless-eyed, cold as the grave, a body that died. So again, he's talking about the physical form passing. Lips of marble, because obviously the pallor of the skin. They become pale. They kind of look like marble. The gazeless eyes. Again, because you can tell the difference between the living eyes of someone and the dead eyes of someone. Like, if you took a photograph of someone's eyes, just this bit here, if you took a photograph of someone's eyes whilst they were alive and took the photograph of someone's eyes whilst they were dead, you'd very easily be able to tell the difference between which one's living and which one's dead, because there's just something about the characteristics of the eyes when someone is dead that it changes, and it's very noticeable. So he's talking about, obviously, the dead body, the cold pallor of the skin, the lips of marble, the gazeless eyes, cold as the grave, obviously, a body that died. So again, just talking about the physical form. Entombed into the darkness, supposed to rot, but there's still a warmth in this flesh and the flow of this blood. Shrieks of terror, sepulchral aghast. Ensnared in the sarcophagus, not esophagus, ensnared in the sarcophagus, a never-ending nightmare to last. So, this is almost like suggesting that the spirit or the soul has now been trapped in this coffin, in this sarcophagus, with the physical form and can't get out. Dark and cold, shrouds of mould, deathless dread, envy the dead, lightless tomb, inverted womb, fade to grey with a tart bouquet. So again, dark and cold, shrouds of mould. So, all the clothing, the vestments that someone will be wrapped in when they're put to rest, will eventually mould, they'll disintegrate over time, so shrouds of mould. Deathless dread, again, so this would be possibly suggesting the spirit or the soul living on but trapped in this tomb. It can't escape the confines of this space, so it's dreading being trapped here for eternity, possibly. Lightless tomb. And I like this line, interested me. Inverted womb. At first I was like, ugh, what? But then I thought about it. Inverted womb, because the womb is a small enclosed space where life is created, and here with the word inverted, it's not meaning turned inside out, it's meaning the opposite. So again, a small enclosed space where death and decay occur. So when I first heard the line, I was like, what the hell? But then when you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because like I said, the womb is a small enclosed space where life is created. The coffin, essentially, a small enclosed space where life ends, decays, and comes, ceases to exist. So it's a clever line. I like it. Fade to grey with tart bouquet. Now, tart bouquet, most people would associate the word tart with either sour or a slag. But tart can mean like abrasive, or something sort of sharp and unpleasant. So I don't know, but yeah, I mean, so at the moment the whole thing seems to be talking about this bloke in love with a woman, You know, he might have been a popular young man, you know, very popular with the ladies, as it were. And then he found the love of his life. She died. She got buried. And now he's sort of questioning, is she really dead? You know, her body might, you know, her spirit and soul might be living on. Her body might be rotting in the grave that, you know, he's perpetually sitting by. You know, so he's sort of questioning whether or not she's really dead, sort of thing. So, and, you know, the album is called Weird Tales. So, you know, so I'm really looking forward to when this album comes out. I don't think they've actually given a time for when this album's released. I don't think we've got a release date yet. But I'm really looking forward to it because, like I say, I really enjoy their music, and yeah, a fantastic piece of music that I really enjoyed. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about that, so I'll leave that as it is. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and a subscribe, because it really, really would help my channel out. Because as it stands at this precise moment, barely 2% of people watching my videos are actually subscribed, and that kind of sucks, you know. Because I've been doing this for about 5 or 6 years now, and, you know, I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. I'm uploading them, and they're just disappearing. You know, people aren't watching them, people aren't getting suggested them. So, you know, if you could like and subscribe, it really would help me out. It doesn't cost you anything. You know, it takes a fraction of a second, and it does make the biggest difference to my channel. But that's all I've got for you today. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.